people log on. Thank you for joining us. If you could put in the chat where you are logging in from as you do join, that would be great. I love seeing where everyone is from. I know we've got quite a few different people from APAC, Europe, all over the world today. So thank you so much for joining. All right. Okay, we are ready to get started. As people trickle in, again, feel free to put where you are joining. If you're tuning in through one of our live streams, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to SaaStr Scale 2022. We are thrilled to have Cliff Bockard. He will be discussing big numbers from small customers, how DigitalOcean accelerated at scale. He is the SVP of Revenue at DigitalOcean. We have 30 minutes for this topic, so there will be plenty of time for questions. You will note that there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom. Feel free to use it. Plug in questions throughout the session. We are so excited to hear from you and make this as interactive as possible. These sessions are being recorded and are being live streamed. You will be able to check them out on SaaStr's YouTube after this session. All right, and with that, join me in welcoming Cliff.
Thank you so much. And, thank you to Jason and the team for having me broadcast here from sunny Colorado. As always, privileged not only to be involved with SaaStr, but always, truly my honor to have such an esteemed audience as well. As was called out here, I've had, I feel at least, an interesting career arc. Most recently at 3 companies that really do live and breathe customer count. I led our sales efforts globally at SendGrid, where we had about 80,000 customers. Then the go-to-market integration of SendGrid and Twilio, the acquisition, plus building out their mid-market segment, where we had over 200,000 customers. And fast forward to DigitalOcean now, where I lead all of our customer-facing teams and have the honor of serving over 600,000 customers. With really, the common theme and thread across all these is distribution of average revenue per customer or per unit, right, ASP, et cetera, but also a really strong and efficient go-to-market machine. And what this does effectively across these multiple hundreds or multiple tens thousands of customers is makes your customers your best salespeople. So, what is DigitalOcean, or what we term as DO? What do we do? To really boil it down, we simplify cloud computing for primarily SMB customers, associated entrepreneurs and developers. That comes in the form of outcome-oriented solutions, right? So that those are built on foundational infrastructure. And these customers are all building all sorts of apps that you can see here that you're using every day as well, right? So there's a good chance in your day-to-day life that you are somehow, some way interfacing with DigitalOcean, as it was with SendGrid and Twilio in their past lives as well. So these include, web apps, websites, AI/ML, managed hosting services and hosting providers, as well as, overall developer tools, again, to advance the mission. The reason why I love DO is really we're able to empower and enable people to build their dreams on top of our company. So what, right? Like you came here to learn about getting customers and getting lots of customers. At the end, it kind of turns out that it's the math game. We all know that go-to-market tends to be, very much like, hey, how many at-bats do we get? How can we get that hit rate up? And then ultimately land and expand those associated customers. But if you start with a larger TAM, that math game becomes, accretively and infinitely easier, just based on ratios. So as I mentioned, we serve SMBs. There are millions and millions of SMBs across the globe that are underserved by many or most. And the compounding effect is that we have 14 million of new SMBs that are created globally every year. So if you kind of look at that, from a perspective of, hey, there's 43 million developers out there, and that's obviously compounding every year. coupled with 100 million current SMBs globally and the 14 million of SMBs every year, the 600,000 customers I mentioned earlier, that really doesn't even sound like a lot. So we even at DO, with that 600,000 customer base, even have a long way to go. And the reason they come to DO is these customers, based on volume and velocity and kind of the way they do business, they just need different things. The global 2000 enterprise is a very finite thing. I've sold into them and been an employee of many, or of a few rather. And the SMBs and the smaller customers across the velocity business, they're really longing for simplicity, pricing, and great support. And it's really, in my mind, straightforward to think about. Especially if you put yourself and the customer at the nucleus of everything we do. So SMBs, they're working with less resources, smaller teams. They want to get their infrastructure and their apps and everything up and running quickly. They want to be able to focus on their business. And so when you kind of look at it internally and take an outside-in view, it's a lot easier to just say like, hey, have I made my product easy to use? Can the customer consume the way they want to buy? Do they know what their bill will be at the end of the month? Or is it a labyrinth of line items to decipher in a really frustrating manner that it obviously departs and inflects CX, customer experience, in the wrong way? And then lastly, support, right? Like, my gosh, SMBs don't have large developer teams. They have a lot more challenges that arise on every day, and they look for fast and personalized support, right? So when you kind of look at the three major tenets, this is how I kind of segment for how we go to market and what our value prop is against, some of the higher velocity and individual businesses that we have. So if you kind of like, Jason didn't pay me for this, but it's like if you enter Jason's favorite mantra, which is product market fit, we fit squarely in the middle, right? We fit there with our just right approach for SMBs. As I mentioned, right, like, because they don't need to spend and don't want the complexity of kind of enterprise focused stuff, but we also don't have the fluff, but we don't have any monster gaps either. And that's, completely dovetailed into those three earlier tenets that I mentioned on the last slide. Keeping it simple, transparent, and, having outsized and over-rotated, if you will, support for your customers. At SendGrid, when we were acquired, we had just released an Act 2 when Twilio came and bought us. And then at Twilio, obviously, we had over 15 plus follow-ons as far as its product suite. And what you can see here at DO is a similar path as far as like our product roadmap. And I want to make it very clear that, our customer journey has effectively inflected and or certainly influenced this. So, we've layered on quite a bit, and it's not just about like the overall product fit. It's about layering them on at the right time with the right return for your ideal customer profile. As I mentioned, our product roadmap here in this case, in many ways mirrors the customer journey. And so we're layering on the right products at the right time, but also across the right use cases. We started back in 2012 with a simple virtual machine that was really designed for a developer, an individual developer. And we moved all the way up through our serverless functions and premium droplets, with databases, et cetera. So it's kind of allowing the go-to-market team to interlock, if you will, with the product team to really influence this overall arc of the product roadmap. So it's not just kind of about me talking here, right? It's just like, oh, that's all great, Cliff. But at the end, here's the tale of tape, right? Focus and conviction works. You can see the growth in the ARR. You can see a lot of the, just kind of overall customer growth, et cetera. But one thing I would really call out to the forefront is the last bullet. Our customers that spend over $50, just $50, right? We're not talking about any commas here, et cetera, a month, outpace our company growth. And the reason for that is they started small, and we held their hand through their own internal and value prop journey. and made them successful with again, that simplicity and support, right? So you see like their NRR, their NDR, if you will, is a factor higher than our lower spending customers. And so it all comes down to like, how are we holding their hand through their process and making them again successful with multi-product attach, but then also, filling the top of the funnel with net new customers each and every month, which I'll get to in a couple of slides. So you're all saying like, great job, Cliff. All right, that's all sounds good for DO, but what does that mean for me? Well, there is a what and how coming up here. And at the end, it's not rocket science, but it does require a little bit of patience, but also like a very cadenced and calculated thought. And, this is kind of the what for us, and potentially you too, should be around landing your customers, in our case, developers and SMBs, mostly SMBs, with outcome-oriented messaging and prescriptive journey, right? And so that might be through FTOs or free trial offers or basic sandbox, right? Where they're just like playing around and really like trying you out. And I think an important concept that oftentimes in X as a service, if you will, that we shy away from is allowing that free trial or basic packages to become a rate limiter. Do not let that happen. We've seen many examples, not only in my own business, in our own business here, but across corollary businesses where they've really like used the free trial offer as a springboard and as an accelerant. And so if it is a developer or an individual, we encourage them to bring DO to work and proliferate her experience across their place of work as well. If an SMB, it's that conversion of the FTO or free trial offer to paid that creates an uplift in overall customer value. And that point is a very key inflection where we expand via sales assisted, if you will, motion with more use cases, multi-product attach. Hey, have you thought about this? Learning really more about the business and kind of their overall roadmap and goals. In a more pictorial way, yes, this is the time tested and true land and expand motion. But the difference here is this is with efficiency layered in, right? It's not just a traditional sales model across, okay, we're going to go outbound, we're going to hunt, if you will, and prospect customer lists, et cetera, bring them on the platform and expand it accordingly. That does in many ways work with an overall enterprise because you have a finite limit, right? You have a global 2000, there's a list. When there's 14 million businesses, created every year, you have to get creative, you have to get efficient. And, bringing in volumes of customers through our self-serve channel, i.e. revenue marketing, is one of the key unlocks here. We bring over 30,000 customers a month in via self-serve. Think about that. And sometimes I think about it like portfolio companies, which they had 30,000 customers total. And this is what we're doing in a month. Now, yes, again, at that lower dollar threshold, but we're using the stickiness in order to allow, in order to bring them on the platform as well as make them success, which I'll get to in a second. The difference, though, is we enrich with data every single customer that comes through that funnel to determine propensity and if they would benefit from a human touch, right? And if you will, sales assisted. The other channel, of course, is like your full-blown sales channel, because in a more complex world, your prospect needs the handling. And in some ways, they're expecting it. So it makes sense to have sales layered in either, for higher complex technical aspects, or bigger ticket potential and propensity over time. So, those are two ways to get the customers in the tent. There's the highly efficient self-serve, if you will, revenue marketing, which should be highly interlocked into your sales plays and campaigns and value prop. But then, once we get them in the tent, so to speak, it's our job to make them successful. That's our job to grow their business. But it's also our job and go to market to grow the revenue. And this is a very discrete and deliberate motion. And that requires focus, that requires intent, for retention and expansion. And so success, here in this case, is to help the multi-product attach and adoption, and overall success in the platform. right? We have a very finite team there to make sure that they are successful. We pour more and more customers on top of that bucket every single month. Then we have account management, of course, across the entire spectrum of the customer, and then support, right? I mean, do not sleep on support and the importance of it. It kind of goes without saying, but the flip side to that, or I would say maybe the dovetail to that, is support as a lead source is incredibly valuable. Our support function talks to more customers than anyone in our business. So why wouldn't we believe that, hey, this customer is looking to do X, Y, and Z. It's not necessarily a problem with the platform. It's actually like they're looking for help in order to grow with DigitalOcean. So if you kind of look at this in a real life example, we had a customer that came in, and I have arrows pointing here accordingly, with $100 or 200, in this case, $276 to spend, to be exact. And they came in and said, okay, I'll try out DigitalOcean. And we spun up a bunch of droplets, which are virtual machines, and said, okay, we'll dabble around. We insert a little bit of triggers with our revenue marketing team to say, hey, this is a real customer that could benefit over time with adding load balancers. Forget the technical jargon. These are just additional products to help the value and help streamline their business. So that looks cool. We'll add load balancers. This is without any human interaction, by the way. And it's like, okay, this is through digital nurturing. This is through the efficiency funnel that I mentioned earlier. Then, we need a database. Cool. And that also came in through digital nurturing. And then it became very, very clear, this is a customer that we can help inflect their journey. We can help become more efficient and optimized, and layer in a sales assisted touch, and the rest is history. All right. So then we had Kubernetes, we had both aspects of storage, and then our container product a year later. Just about a year later, over time. And when you look at it from how that increased the MRR, this customer went from $276 to spend to about 200,000 a month over the course of about a year and a half, right? Maybe 2 years. And so the idea here is you don't have to layer on sales on every single customer, but you should layer on sales where it makes sense. And if we're doing the right work, we're doing the right enrichment from a perspective of propensity, it will become highly efficient. And there's a continuum, or if you will, an end-to-end view of how the customer perceives the platform and comes in via either self-serve or inbound to their overall customer experience, into support. And then round and round we go, right? I mean, support tickets, CS, and hey, this customer is looking to do X, Y, Z. Can we do that? We bring in technical knowledge, and then increase credibility and trust in order to grow them on the platform. So the net, is lots of customers in, keep the customers, grow the customers via a very deliberate success motion. So to kind of boil it down, and then we'll open up to questions here. Don't be afraid to look beyond enterprise. As you saw, or in my past, I've worked across many segments. And SMB is, again, that high velocity, but also is expecting a different value prop. And when you look at kind of your customer segmentation and/or how you go to market, don't typecast ourselves into what we feel our go-to-market structure should be. Take an outside-in look to your customer's journey on how they want to consume, and then that'll be an eye-opening experience, I believe, as it was for us. And then lastly, just a friendly reminder here, like empowering and enabling your customer's success will just help grow them over time. It's a fairly obvious statement, but the sale starts after the pen is the ink is dry, if you will, right? That's where the real sale starts. We've landed them, we've done the hard work, and I kind of always part my team, like, we've done the hard work to land them on our platform. They've trusted us, and now the real work begins to make sure that they stay and that they're successful and continue to build credibility with our overall teams. So with that, that's what I have to impart today, and certainly open here to Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. We do have some questions in the chat. DigitalOcean has successfully moved globally. What do you determine has been the largest factor in this growth?
Yeah. Well, in our business, there's a couple of things. We have a follow the sun model with regards to our support, right? Then that is not inconsistent with kind of a few mentions of support, not only being a lead source, but paramount to the overall customer experience. So they understand, our customers and prospects understand, the support in real time and not just a, if you will, North American centric 9 to 5 view. The second piece is, we have face in the place go to market. We have our regional marketing teams that are really driving brand awareness, but also like the value and the use cases as they pertain to different regions, right? What works in San Francisco, does not work in Bangalore, right? And so we're really layering value there. And then thirdly, there is a level of infrastructure, there is a level of expertise and expectation that we want, data residency and latency to be as close as possible to where a particular customer is headquartered. So I would say those are maybe the three major tenets there.
Thank you. That was a super clear way to lay that out. We have a question about sales. How is it determined when sales gets involved? What triggers sales assisted? I'm trying to understand what tips or frameworks you have for others going through the same thought process of when sales or human should get involved.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, every company struggles with this. Every company that has, a self-serve engine, if you will, or do-it-yourself type model, right? Sign up, et cetera. What we've done, and by the way, there was another SaaStr webinar. Gosh, it was with Asana, but around layering sales on top of sales. Sales on top of self-service. And at the end, what we do is we really look at that data piece. And what I mentioned across that 30,000, if it's 30,000 or 3, the number does not matter. It's every customer that comes into your funnel, no matter what the source, we should be applying data enrichment to. And by data enrichment too, I don't necessarily mean AI ML. It can be human, it can be by any means, but taking even something as simple as a Gmail email domain, can give you a lot of information. There are a ton of tools out there to allow you to understand if this is a business, where's their market and what are they doing. So at that point, when we do that data enrichment, we capture all the firmographic information, if you will. That's where we make a decision on, if you will, sales assisted or not. That's the human way. The automated way is, okay, this customer is growing, right? Like this customer has bought one product, they've been $5 or $50 for 3 months, and now there's $100, $120. It's a very simple and easy trigger to say, this person and this customer warrants a phone call. And they're probably not going to be $5 or $50 per month. There's obviously some inflection point that they're going through. Reach out, find out what's going on with their business. It's not a sales call. It's discovery, and in order to grab some data around, okay, what's going on, why they increase value.
Great. A follow-up question: what is your tech stack to enrich those leads data points?
Yeah, it's a fair question. We use a number of different things. I would say the three major ones are LinkedIn Sales Nav, Zoom Info, Crunchbase. So those are really the three major, tech and tools. I always anchor on people, process, tools, technology. Tools is one of those that can really make a difference across how you look at that. And by the way, it's not just for your own business, it's for your customers' sake as well. Especially if you're enrich the data and you feel as though, okay, this is not necessarily, they will appreciate you not wasting their time by picking up the phone, as opposed, and in addition to obviously becoming highly efficient.
This leads really nicely into the next question. How are your customer service and support teams customized to support SMBs?
Yeah, they go through a rigorous training on an outside-in 360 view of what it means to be an SMB. And, so a lot of where we look at, kind of our individual success and support, they are different. But, for the sake of the question, I'll lump them together. Success and support is, and it's very simple. Pretend you own a business and you want to do business with DigitalOcean. You've run into an issue or whatever. What does that mean? How do you want to be treated? And then what are expectations as far as SLAs, SLOs? Believe it or not, the SMB just needs an answer faster. And, because in many cases, being, if you will, a utility, quote unquote, infrastructure, we always take the viewpoint that, we are the utility. We have to stay up. And if things go awry, either by our own doing or customers or miscoding or whatever, we have to support because their business is reliant upon this infrastructure. Much like, this phone call, this Zoom call is not, possible without power. And so it's the same sort of attitude. So we take a very customer-centric, empathetic approach to it.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a great training. We have a question. Which team does the non-sales discovery call when growth trips the wire?
We have, it's interesting, we do a couple of things. We do it either via our onboarding team, right? So they're already a customer, right? I mean, it's not like this is a net new prospect, if you will. So their customer and this onboarding team, they're really charged with finding out the why. And so it's not necessarily, we have a team of 30 or so. Again, they're also doing that data enrichment, by the way. So there's continuum there. So they're empowered to say, hey, tell me why this product and why this multi-product attached, et cetera. And customers are very open about it. Because you're not trying to sell anything, you're trying to understand. And they understand that, you're capturing value in order to inflect, again, as I mentioned earlier, that interlocked product roadmap. And that's a very important distinction. It's like, hey, I noticed you're growing. What else can I sell you? Versus, I noticed you're growing. Tell me why, and tell me how that's inflecting your business. And there's a mutual understanding and appreciation for caring about their business and why they're growing, as opposed to the next whiz bang.
Agreed. People just want to be heard. Lots of companies, including DigitalOcean, struggle initially with adding sales to their self-serve motion. What are the most common mistakes you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I've been through 3 of them, right? With SendGrid, Twilio, and DigitalOcean. Unequivocally, the biggest mistake is just a lack of orchestration and communication around the customer journey. And that starts as simple as, okay, we brought a customer in and, sales globs themselves onto it or whatever, using somewhat dramatic term there, but, and takes it, quote unquote, takes the credit, to something as simple as a campaign orchestration. We might run a campaign on X and the salesperson's talking about Y, and the customer opted out, but we call them something else. And so that's that kind of orchestration coordination layer that can be lacking. Thankfully, I've worked for 3 companies where we've shored that up very, very quickly, and excellent partners in our revenue marketing stream across that. But it is a very real thing. So I would say overall coordination and orchestration and making sure that the end-to-end experience is shored up. In my world, our SVP of Rev Marketing is we talk 5 times a day, right? And we're making sure that we're again, coordinated at the 10,000 foot level so that our teams can execute with efficiency, but then also execute without confusion.
Great. Yeah. Alignment always. That
Yes.
is all the time we have. Cliff, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. We do have one more session left, so please stick with us to the end of SaaStr Scale. But again, thank you, Cliff, and thank you all.
Love being here. Thank you so much, everyone.